please.
Taoiseach, I have two main questions to ask, if I may. This issue has been debated on the airwaves, in television studios, in copy rooms, in front rooms, all over this state and all over the island, and for all we know in different parts of the world who are interested in Irish affairs. It has not been debated here. Why are we being prevented from having a change in the order of business to allow debate to proceed this afternoon? This is a pressing issue. It is one of the most important issues facing the government at this time, and I come back to what you have said consistently. The gap between the governed and the government, between citizens and the people in the political class, is widened by the refusal to have the type of debate that's required. The second point that I want to ask you about is this, and I want to commend to you the part of the report which deals with the $50,000 donation to Fine Gael, because it reads like a novel. It tells how there was a payment solicited on behalf of Fine Gael, how this was to be at a dinner which would be attended by the then Taoiseach, by Ministers Lowry, Sean Barrett, Ivan Yates, Enda Kenny and Mr Peter Sutherland. We're also conscious that at that time Richard Bruton, Brendan Howland, Rory Quinn, Michael Noonan, Enda Kenny, Michael Lowry and Sean Barrett were ministers, and Phil Hogan also is named in this report. Now, after a lot of very convoluted processes, this unfortunate man called Johannesson, I think his name is, it then falls on him to make this donation. And he says, and I quote, that he would need some form of paper documentation. He's then told by the Fine Gael representative, well, we'll issue an invoice. And this would be expressed as having been...
question time, please.
Yes, I'm coming to the questions. As having been for consultancy work. And then he then asked, Mr Johannesson then says, well, how would this payment, how would this be? How could Fine Gael recognise this as a donation?
Deputy, I have to ask you to put a question, not quotations, please.
Okay, well, he's told this is no problem. And then follows that this is made into an offshore account. So can the Taoiseach answer how any of this in terms of offshore accounts, invoices, money laundering of a very classical kind?
Your time has expired, Deputy.
May you laugh, my friend.
Order, please. Order.
I made the point yesterday.
Could we ask the Taoiseach to respond, please?
That if some unfortunate woman steals a loaf,
Deputy,
or a litre of milk, she would end up in the joy. But yet, when this serious indictment of people on the opposite benches and the government benches is made, they hurrah and laugh and guffaw.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Now, secondly,
thank you,
finally,
sorry, Deputy, your time is up.
Fine Gael spent over €2 million. You spent over €2 million
Deputy
in the recent election.
Adams, your time has expired.
Let us know, are there any other funds being received from any of those sources, and if so, will you tell us that now?
Well,
could I have the Taoiseach to respond, please?
O'Haven díspolach seo is féidir mar aga tuchaí de lá. O'Haven díspolach seo. O'Haven díspolach seo tuchaí de lá. I want you, Deputy Adams, to have a real opportunity to contribute to this debate arising from the Moriarty Tribunal. I have to go to Brussels tomorrow and prepare for a critical meeting of the European Council dealing with the legacy of the mess left by Deputy Micheál Martin and his party. Now that runs, as you know, to well over 100 billion. In fact, a previous incumbent who stood in this spot said that you yourself and your party were in possession of knowledge about the Northern Bank raid a number of years ago. We didn't have much information about that from you. Now that you're a deputy here, maybe you might deal with that when you contribute next week on the Moriarty debate about senior amounts of money there. Now, I've asked the whip to meet with the other whips, and we will give a real opportunity for all of the members to contribute to this debate, and we'll have questions at the end of it. I note that in his report at 6204, the recommendations of the tribunal do refer to the fact that one of the most significant related to a donation of $50,000 by ESAT Digiphone via Telenor to Fine Gael in 1995. That donation was unwelcome to the party and was rejected by the party leader. And also at section 623, you accept the findings of the report, Deputy, and section 623 says that in respect of perfunctory meetings that I as Minister had and that Deputy Bruton had with Mr O'Brien, that these were perfunctory encounters and neither Minister in any event played any part in the decision taken by the government at the conclusion of the GSM process. So you accept the findings of the report. I hope you're man enough in your statements outside here to accept what the report finds in respect of the activities and participation of the members of that cabinet who are represented in this government. Because if you accept the findings of the report, those findings are very clear. So from that perspective, I hope that we can have a real debate on this next week. Unlike, as I said, in the case of the first report in respect of Moriarty and Charles Martin, where there was, I'm replying to Deputy Adams, I want to remind Deputy Adams, Deputy O'Callaghan, that on the first report of Moriarty into the activities of Mr C.J. Haughey, published on the 19th of December 2006, there was no series of statements until the 14th of February 2007, and there were no questions allowed. Now, I have referred this through the Minister for Communications to the DPP and the Garda Commissioner. I expect them to consider this report, and if they consider that action is appropriate, then they are the competent authorities to follow that suit. There will be a real debate here next week, and there will be questions for the information of Deputy Adams, and there might be some straying outside the remit of this that he might like to answer himself. Insofar as the activities of my party are concerned, it was the Rainbow government that changed the legislation in respect of the contact between business and politics. We already, as part of our programme for government, are going to ban corporate donations completely, which the Fianna Fáil party refused to do during its 3 years in office. And I might make the point. I might also make the point when we speak about accountability that the Fianna Fáil party wouldn't even go so far as to publish the secret agreement that they had with Deputy Lowry to stay in power.
Deputy Adams, you have 1 minute. 1 minute.
Thank you, Taoiseach, you never answered one question. Not one question which I put here.
Go back to sleep up there. Go back to sleep.
Through the chair.
And I asked you detailed questions here. And let me say, for the record, that you appear not to believe the person who sat in that seat when he made all sorts of statements, but yet you choose to throw that as a cheap jab at us when we are in a constructive way, trying to shed light on these affairs. So I put the question again. Has Fine Gael received any monies from any of these sources which have not been declared? And coming back to the point about the whips, you could decide now, it doesn't even need a whips meeting, you could decide now to have this afternoon a debate on these matters. And the only people who are being prevented from having a debate on these matters are Teachtacht Dála. It's absolutely ludicrous that we're being prevented from having that debate. And you cannot accuse Fianna Fáil. You're right about Fianna Fáil, of course you are. But you cannot accuse them of doing what they did when you're doing exactly the same thing.
This is question time to the Taoiseach.
I'm not doing exactly this. I'm doing something completely different. I've asked the Minister for Communications to refer the report to the two competent authorities, the Garda Commissioner and the DPP. I don't know what sources you are talking about that may or may not have made contributions to anybody. I want to assure you of this, Deputy. The Fine Gael party complies strictly with the law insofar as any political contributions are concerned, and we intend to move swiftly to ban corporate donations completely, to demonstrate a complete break between any business and politics, and that's the way that it should be.
Thank you.